now from whistleblowers. And we know that with the passage of the years then, the U.S. has had a, quote, secret space program, or actually a secret time-space program, because of their experiments in teleportation and time travel teleportation.
Sheesh, that's just
according to Mr. Bashago's testimony.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Secondly, so that we have a secret time-space program and we have a public space program. And increasingly, that public space program, which is run by NASA, as opposed to the teleportation program, which is secret and is run by CIA and Department of Defense, increasingly NASA and the NASA payloads have been military in nature.
Really?
And now we have a situation where the top personnel and the missions of NASA are increasingly military, where the shuttle will be being phased out, and where the moon, at least Mars, we know for sure, will be serviced not by spacecraft, but rather by teleportation that takes just a matter of seconds or minutes.
Do you think, Alfred, do you think that they will do this officially, or will this teleportation program be carried on behind closed doors, so to speak?
Well, our organization, the Mars Anomaly Research Society, with regard to Mars, and certainly exopolitics.com, we have a petition underway where we are going to request that the U.S. secret bases on Mars, that the existence of life on Mars be made public by President Barack Obama and by NASA and other agencies. And in the alternative, what we'll be doing in parallel will be to bring Freedom of Information lawsuits against NASA and to make their knowledge of the existence of life on Mars and of U.S. teleportation and of U.S. bases on there public. Because this was made according to the original legislation of NASA, which is to explore the universe and to make this information public. And all of this is being done with U.S. taxpayer funds.
Yeah, that's right.
And the U.S. has the right to know. And also, it has to become an issue of public debate whether or not, what the intentions of the U.S. are. Are they there to colonize Mars and as the beginning of the colonization of the solar system using teleportation, or what's the nature? What exactly is the nature and mission of the U.S. presence on Mars? These should be public questions, especially now, since we have another threshold being violated by NASA and by the U.S., and that is the bombing of the moon through the L-Cross mission, which is in violation of 3 international treaties.
Yes, that's right. And Alfred, I want to ask you as well. I remember the Deep Impact mission back in 2005, where they crashed, or a similar thing, with a projectile into comet, which they dubbed the Temple 1. Don't know if you remember this, but this, from my point of view, it's a similar type of violation. Isn't that right? Do you remember this?
Yes. And so there are specifications. What we're dealing with here is the moon, which is our closest celestial body, and which other nations are now planning to go to. And so this is especially important that international treaties be observed. And then we add the further complicating dimension that there's evidence that there may be extraterrestrial bases and civilizations on the moon, and would this not be interpreted as a hostile act?
Yeah.
So these are issues of international law which are being violated by NASA in the same way that the U.S. violated the UN Charter and other treaties, the Geneva Conventions, and other treaties like the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court in invading Iraq and in invading Afghanistan. And so here we have a power that just arrogates unto itself the right to invade other celestial bodies with weapons without any public debate and in direct contravention of treaties that it has signed. And these are the concerns that I've raised publicly and why I think it's important that these issues be examined.
Absolutely, and that's only on the law side of things, and I want to ask you a little bit about what can be done in regards to bringing this up into court or what you're doing in regards to that. But I want to backtrack a little bit first and just ask you if we indeed were run off the moon, as you said, back in the 70s or so, and basically haven't been back since, at least not officially. The question is, of course, what do you think would be the consequence for this action with this bomb going off if it indeed are extraterrestrials and advanced ET civilizations on the moon, Alfred?
Well, yeah, just to note a couple of things. There were several Apollo missions that did land on the moon after Apollo 11.
Yes.
But the program was terminated. Secondly, the weapon that is being used in L-Cross is a kinetic weapon. It does not have explosives, and that is, they take the 2 tons. The 2 tons of a kinetic weapon, which in this case is an Atlas rocket, which is being sent toward the moon, and that qualifies as a kinetic weapon in that context. A kinetic weapon does not carry explosives with it. Rather, it's the momentum of the kinetic weapon which causes the damage.
Yes, but the effects are very similar. That's the trick.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that taken into account, this act could be construed as a hostile act by extraterrestrial civilizations which may be based on the moon, which we know from previous evidence were based on the moon as of 1965. So when you add to the fact that 3 treaties are being violated and that this may be a hostile act, certainly the world community and the people of the world should be concerned when a power like the United States, which has acted within the last several years, carrying out wars of aggression, which under international law can be considered genocidal and crimes against humanity, as those terms are used in the Geneva Conventions and in the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. We have the same nation that may be carrying out an act of aggression against civilizations that are based on the moon. So, but even if you don't believe that there are extraterrestrials on the moon, or even if you are not ready to concede that there is an extraterrestrial presence in the universe, those acts by themselves